All right, so today I wanted to talk to you about your hoarding disorder. I wanted to talk to you about the overwhelming artwork that can collect over the years. Depending on what you do, maybe you do photography like Christina over here, maybe you do giant oil paintings like my sister. Um, these things take up space, precious space, valuable space, the most valuable space being horizontal surfaces. And for some, it's difficult to think about parting with artwork, even if it's something that maybe you don't love. It's a part of your history. Who knows? There's tons of reasons that people hang on to things. Originally, I was going to say the professional category versus the hobbyist category, but I scratched that. I think instead it should be based on whether or not you're interested in selling your artwork versus not selling your artwork. Because even hobbyists can sell artwork, and even professional artists don't have to sell their artwork. They can be a professional artist that also is a lawyer or maybe a school teacher, possibly bus driver. I mean, there's really, sky's the limit. Um, the fine artists everywhere. They don't talk about it, but it's true. So let's talk about these folks that you might be one of that would love to sell your artwork. We're talking about getting rid of artwork though. So how do you get rid of your inventory, right? Well, the first thing I would ask yourself is this artwork as it's existing doing its best to help sell itself? So basically, if your artwork is just sitting in your studio or lying flat or not being seen, it's not really doing much for you. You might have a picture of it, you might have a website, but since you do have a physical product, there are some things you can consider. Now, a lot of people might struggle with getting into galleries, right? You want to be in galleries. Galleries is where people see your artwork. Well, if you've thought about it, there are other places you see artwork. Banks, restaurants. There are tons of businesses that have all kinds of clientele that would love to deck the walls with possibly your artwork, depending on what it is. And even if you do something, very specific, like let's say that you do infant photography, go to an OB or an infraternity clinic, infertility clinic. Perhaps they would like to show your artwork on their walls because, let's face it, anything to kind of make a doctor's office a little bit more comfortable is helpful. And, just say like, hey, I would love if you would show my artwork and, just put a little credit so if anybody wants to contact me, they can. What's the worst that can happen? They say no, right? There's another thing that I would suggest, I'd highly suggest. I feel like everybody knows somebody that knows a lot of people, and that's probably why you know them, all right? Somebody like my dad, for example. I don't know why I have more Facebook friends with my dad in common than anybody else, but I do. Because my dad, I don't know, man, he friends y'all. I mean, hey, you should follow my father on Facebook. Oh, he'll accept it. With that being said, if you have one of these people in your life that knows a lot of people, whether they have a lot of folks coming in and out of their office, their place of business, their home, you might want to consider giving them a nice little gift of your art and having them display it, simply for the fact that hopefully they'll like it enough where they would accept a free piece of artwork. But people ask questions, especially when you have that much turnover of people going through there, having one of your pieces. I'll tell you, my dad is an art collector, and when people come over, they usually ask questions if there's a piece that speaks to them, and he will always tell them about the artist and give them a little personal history. But the point is that we're trying to clear out inventory. So for you, it's not so much, well, how do I get it so that it's out of my face? It's how do I get it into the hands of collectors or people that want to buy art? How can you put your artwork to work for you without it selling first? Does that make sense? Is that making sense to you? Okay. I want there to be a good message in here somewhere. So yeah, so if you're trying to sell your artwork, how is it going to be put to work for you? Now, on the other hand, maybe you don't want to sell your artwork, or maybe you will eventually, but it's not about getting seen. It's not about getting your artwork seen. It's more about your journey, and you want to hold on to these things because you feel that they have an impact on your art. and your history. Well, when it comes to what you store and what you don't, okay, because essentially what it comes down to is proper storage options for what to do with your old artwork. But before you bother putting everything into storage, I want you to consider something. I think that there is some merit to, okay, this is some of my earliest work, and I like to see a progression, and like, okay, this is not my favorite piece, but this was a very interesting thing because of the time. I want you to look at this piece of artwork, whether it's one of your latest pieces or your earliest pieces, it doesn't matter where. Each piece of artwork, ask yourself, does this make me happy? Because even if the piece doesn't necessarily make you happy, like some of that earlier work, you're probably like, I could paint circles around this. If there's a memory tied to it of that feeling of accomplishment of your first painting, there's still positivity in there. There's something worth saving. But if there's a piece of, I don't know, a portrait you did of your ex-husband, okay? Like, what are you holding on to it for unless it's a dartboard, right? That's what my wife says. So anyway, consider how it makes you feel. Because if you are surrounding yourself with items, let's just put artwork aside, items that don't make you feel good, you're really doing some subconscious damage to your daily, I don't know, mood, persona, chai, lattes, right? So, okay, so you've decided, you've done this exercise. You've said, okay, this is artwork that I need to save. How do I save it? I got to take up space. Shut up, Mike, and help me. Okay. You're going to have a harder time with bulkier canvas if, A, you have not painted correctly, you did not heed my warnings, you froze your oils, you painted very brittle paint on a flexible surface. These are things that I've been warning you about for years, and nobody listens. Nobody listens. But you will absolutely have a hard time if you're using what is known as a spleen or spline? Spleen. Spline? What's a spleen? It's a thing in your what? In your stomach. Okay. So I'm guessing it's spline, because there's no stomach in the... Okay, let me just show you what I mean. This looks really nice, okay? When it's nice and tucked in and there's this little gasket on here, it's just a clean presentation. Hangs up really flush to the wall. There's some benefits to the spline, right? But one of the biggest drawbacks is the reason that a lot of artists paint on stretched canvases are to remove that stretched canvas, be able to potentially roll it up and re-stretch it later. So that will not be an option for you if you've been painting on canvases that are spline. So keep that in mind, that is one of the drawbacks, but there is some nice benefits. Like I said, there's not canvas back here puffing out that would, if you stacked a bunch of canvases up, make a difference. Now, this canvas over here, on the other hand, is backstapled, okay? And you can simply remove the staples and disassemble the stretcher bars, roll the canvas up, and you can keep the stretcher bars, you can toss the stretcher bars, it depends on how long it's going to be stored for. Stretcher bars are not extremely expensive depending on the size. I mean, if you have a 72-inch stretcher bar and you don't have an art store near you, I might hold on to it, but this would take up a lot less room than if it was all the way pulled out at 60 plus inches and probably 36 inches wide, okay? And this also, I should say, was done by a student, so you shouldn't be cutting that doesn't re-stretch well. But along with that, let's go back to my warnings here. Now, when it comes to rolling up your canvas, all right, not everybody can do this, even if you've painted on the right surface, on the right kind of canvas, okay? You have to be conscientious of the work itself. Now, this is an oil painting. Oil paint is fairly flexible, especially when things like linseed oil are the main oil that's used. Liquid's been applied to this. These are agents that have flexibility to them. However, if you're using a paint that's brittle, like you're using zinc white, for example, or any colors that have safflower oil or sunflower oil, these oils are not as flexible, and you might be risking some cracking when rolling it up. However, even if that's the case and you don't want to risk it, it's probably still flexible enough to be off the stretcher bars, and this now lays completely flat. So if you wanted to get a flat file or stack them with maybe sheets of wax paper in between, it just depends on the humidity, and maybe you want to do sheets of newsprint, not actual newspaper because the ink would come off, but maybe newsprint, just something to keep them slightly separated and out of direct sunlight. But when you're working with something like acrylics, unless you're painting very thick, they roll up just fine. Acrylics are the most flexible medium there are. And although this was not removed from stretchers, it was painted directly on a canvas pad and only half varnished just to show a gloss medium versus a non-varnished piece. The point still remains. This is extremely flexible. Now, let's say that you had something on the smaller side and you wanted to store this. Now, we have these Eternity boxes. These are archival storage boxes. Really great for your paperwork, your drawings, if you've painted on paper, if you're a photographer. These work great. They're in standard sizes. This is a 9x12. We've got a 2024 here. These are good for watercolor paperworks. But if you have a smaller stretched canvas, for example, like this, these would easily fit in the box as well. Now, I don't think that we say this anywhere, but one of the things that these boxes come with, okay, which it's nothing special, but it comes with these little do not eat silica gels, okay? You've probably seen these in just about anything you've ever received that has anything electronic in it or wood or anything that's supposed to be archival. These things draw moisture. And although this is nothing fancy, I say leave it in there. Leave it in there, after you put your artwork in there, just to keep the humidity out. It comes with it. It's not hurting anything. I would get rid of it if you do have young kids around the house or anybody that would potentially not be able to read. Do not eat. Okay, you still don't want to eat it. I'm saying save it, not eat it. Okay, get rid of it if somebody will eat it, because there are eaters out there, eateries. If you are not sure about your oil paintings, ask. Call a local Jerry's Autorama store, okay? Call our customer service and say, hey, I had a quick question about oil paints. This is what I painted with. Do you think it's safe? Now, of course, they will do their best to give you the most information. Nobody knows really except for you exactly how thick and every single item you went in there, but I would ask artist friends, if you're concerned, ask around and see if you can get somebody that can actually take a look at it before you roll it if you have any concerns about it damaging being rolled. Now, some artists like Amy Gardner-Dean, who hosts our Facebook Live and does several of our product demonstrations, she is not a fan of rolling up canvas just as a rule for her. She just doesn't want to risk it no matter what. That doesn't mean you can't. That's her preference, just like whatever paint you use is your preference. But she has no problem removing it from a stretcher and letting it lay flat, right? And that's taking up less space. What? Well, sort of. I mean, it is that. Yeah. Look, I haven't read that book. I know that there's like a Netflix series, but I mean, like the real statement is, does this bring me joy? But I think that although I like the simplicity of that, there are other emotions that factor into a decision when it comes to art. Because I don't think a lot of artists will say, I don't think there's any artist that will say every piece of artwork that I've saved has brought me joy. But there are other things. Does it bring you motivation? Do you look at a piece of artwork and you think, man, I could do better? And you use that to fuel your next artwork. It might not bring you joy, but it brings you gas. It brings you passion. It brings you into the game to step up, to take it to the next level. I say hold on to that. Because that's not negativity. What we're really trying to remove is negativity. If you have a piece that you've been holding on to that you've never been able to finish and it makes you feel absolutely helpless, get rid of it, okay? It is not helping you continue your art journey and it's hindering you, okay? It is becoming a problem. So whether it's motivational or it's demoralizing, you have to consider all these things that go into whether or not it's worth saving, keeping on hand. Along with that, you need to be conscientious of all the things around you and how they affect you. especially in the area that you create. Your studio needs to be a safe place, okay? A place where you feel the most relaxed. If you are not relaxed while you're painting, you're doing it wrong or you're trying to meet a deadline. One of those two things. So be aware of the things. If you have a clock in your studio, for example, and it ticks, and sometimes when you're not listening to music or whatever, all you do is stare at your artwork and hear that tick, and it's driving you nuts. Throw that clock out the window. Not at anybody, but you have my permission. If anybody says, hey, why'd you throw the clock out the window? You say, hey, Mike, not Jerry, said I could do it. So I'll take the heat on that one. But if you hurt somebody, that's on you. Just saying. And sometimes, along with that, it's the clutter. It's the pure clutter, whether it's of your artwork or your art supplies. How is that clutter affecting you? Clutter is essentially a form of chaos. Now, if you're a chaotic artist, eccentric, eclectic, maybe that chaos is part of that motivational fuel that we were talking about. More power to you. It's part of your jive. You're like, what's his name? Denny Dent, doing his little predetermined portraits of Jimi Hendrix. Calm down. All right, coffee's wearing off now. I think we're safe. So be conscientious of that clutter, and if it is causing you distraction or harm, again, removing negativity from the studio, taking out the hate, putting in the peace. It's a breathing exercise, really. Let's go back to this spline canvas. Okay, let's say that you can't remove your stretchers, or let's say you don't want to remove your stretchers. You're okay storing it, you just want to put it into storage. I really recommend somehow, before you put it into storage, protecting the back, okay? When you look at these canvases, there are a lot of nooks and crannies for things to lay eggs. Let's just put it that way, okay? And nobody wants to have eggs laid in them or their art. So before something lays eggs, cover it. You can take a piece of, like if you go to like a local frame shop, I mean, this is how artwork is covered in the back all the time. They'll take a piece of foam board and then tape, archival tape around the corners, or you can do it yourself. Even just a piece of paper, just make sure it's all archival and won't, in your local art supply store or your local Jerry's Autorama website, which is local to all of you, by the way. So, if you're watching this video, hey, Jerry's, ask what you can use to protect the back, because if you put it into long-term storage, most likely something in there will lay eggs, okay? I know that's really gross to think about, but it's true. Yeah, I had this thing on my face. Let's not even talk. So anyway, keep that in mind. Ming's laughing because it's true. So these museum boxes over here are fantastic. They're archival. They keep all the light out, and light is one of the biggest enemies to the longevity of any piece of artwork, keeping it out of direct sunlight, especially if you're not even displaying it. If you keep artwork stacked up in your studio, right? Like let's say you have this giant stretched canvas here and it's just propped up on a wall. Are you noticing at certain times of the day the sun's kind of passing through and it's getting like, a pass of sunlight for, maybe a half hour to an hour every day? That's affecting the longevity of that piece, and even worse, just in the area the light's hitting it. So at least turn it around. Turn it around so it's not facing the sunlight. That's like a little mini thing right in there. It's a little life hack, little art hack. Turn your artwork away from direct sunlight whenever possible. And if you're looking for a place to hang it on the wall, also consider that, is there going to be direct sunlight coming into this path? Maybe there will be and you don't care, that's fine too. But especially pieces that are not behind museum quality glass or that have not been used with the most light fast pigments, you want to avoid it. If you use a lot of color like opera rose, I mean, when you see opera rose, if you're a watercolor artist, opera rose is so tantalizing because it's almost fluorescent. It just glows, this beautiful, what would you say, Jamie, like a pinkish red? Yeah. But it is not considered very light fast. It is a less archival pigment. Any pigment that's super bright, fluorescents are never archival at all. They don't claim it. But because this is an artist paint, it is possible to preserve the luminosity. I always get that word wrong. The luminosity of the color. So doing everything you can between, archival museum glass to protect that watercolor painting underneath, varnishing on oil paintings and acrylic, and keeping it out of direct sunlight will help the longevity of keeping those colors nice, vibrant, and bright. This is actually useful stuff, I think. That's true. Okay, so for the 6 of you that still have a darkroom like Christina, you can keep your undeveloped film paper in here as well. Although I would still keep it in the bag. I don't know exactly how. These are not hermetically sealed boxes. Light might creep in a little, and you know how sensitive that
Are they light sealed or just?
They're archivally sealed boxes. I mean, I would say that it's probably pretty safe,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you that the other thing is that if you knock this over, the likelihood that this opens is high, where if you knock over a sealed bag, you have to kind of intentionally open that bag. Gosh, in a dark room, these things would virtually disappear. I think a lot of times those bags are like a shiny white cover, probably so you can see them in a dark room. You put them in the archive, like, where the hell's the box? Everything's so dark in here. Why are you so red? Because we're in a dark room, you dick. So I want you, when you're considering how an art project, how a piece of art makes you feel, I want to give you permission, okay? Because sometimes I feel like, I'm just a guy up here trying to, motivate you to do more art. But I feel like hearing it sometimes helps. I'm giving you permission to throw away pieces of art that bring you negativity. Throw them away. If you have a friend that absolutely loves it and cannot believe, like, you would throw that away, and you go to this friend's house and you'll have to see it there, tell them, I'm sorry, no. I'm not going to give this to you as a gift. It's okay to be a little selfish to protect your confidence. And that's every video I do comes back to that, is how can we keep confident in our art and not get cocky, Ming. Confident. Decide whether or not you want somebody to see your art at all. Decide where you're going to show it. And be sure to share it with me on Instagram at Mike Not Jerry. That was beautiful. Ooh, best one yet. Where we post all kinds of fun stuff for both the videos that we do on here, some behind the scenes stuff, some funny things that we make, some pictures of my family, personal stuff, and of course now the It's Mike Not Jerry YouTube channel. Now calm down. Calm down. Everybody calm down. If you haven't heard, you can go to youtube.com/itsmike-not-jerry. We've actually decided to make a channel that's dedicated to my stupid humor. And there's a lot of different videos on there, so if you enjoy the art stuff, but you also enjoy my shtick, and you're okay with it being a little, well, let's just say not art related, a little, what would you call it, Christina? Just sometimes inappropriate. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's just me being me without the handcuffs of art supplies, because believe it or not, art supplies do not define me as an entire person. It defines most of me, but not everything. There's a very special private part of me that I don't let anybody see that is not art related. And it's in this room right now. What do you think of that? So follow me on Instagram. Please check out my channel if you have enjoyed my videos, enjoy the humor. It's youtube.com/itsmike-not-jerry. That is confusing because the youtube.com/Mike-not-jerry channel was taken by some other freaking weirdo. So it's at Mike Not Jerry for Instagram. It's Mike Not Jerry. It's Mike Not Jerry for YouTube. And let's tell them a little something. Like what's like we did some food stuff. So I tried the Impossible Burger because I don't like vegans, and I tried Birdie Bot's every flavor bean because I don't like Harry Potter. No, I love Harry Potter. Such a nerd. Little personal stories about things that my daughter said. We're actually working right now on a very special. I watch a very special movie and do a little commentary as I watch it. Yeah, a little watch along. All kinds of stuff, really. And if you've seen our Mikey Tries Bob Ross painting, we also do other Mikey Tries non-art related where everybody on the team tortures me. So it's a lot of fun. And I also want to say that I will be slowly winding down the artist problem videos. As inspiration hits me, I will occasionally pepper them in, but we're going to be doing a lot of different stuff. I need to grow as a person, okay? I need you to help me grow, okay, as a person. So please look out for new videos that we're doing. Support the channel, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified, and, just to be self-serving, subscribe to the It's Mike Not Jerry channel too, because it's embarrassing right now. It's basically like you guys and my mom. And I just recently found out my father-in-law saw the condom video that we did. Okay, that's probably way too much information for the Jerrys that are on my YouTube channel. So they were too tight, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Um, you thought that was funny. Okay, let me just check my notes, and we'll call this a, I don't know what you'd call this, a waste of time.